A yellow is an indication your next signal is red, so you need to prepare when you sight that yellow signal to bring your train to a stop at the next signal, which will be red.
And how long do they take to pull up?
Now,
here we go. This is why we ended up having 2 beers over lunch.
So if we're travelling along the track at 80 kilometres an hour on an empty train, we have the capacity, we have dynamic braking, which is pretty instantaneous braking, but it still takes a considerable amount of distance to pull that train to a stationary stop. So worst case scenario is with the loaded. You've got all that added weight. It's 113,500 tonne of coal in a loaded train, in our loaded trains.
Welcome to the Beers with a Miner podcast. My name is Mad Mumsy and I've been driving the huge dump trucks in Australian open cut mines for over 10 years now. I wish I had $1 for everyone who said to me, "How does a little thing like you drive those big trucks? You must be rich. How do I get a job doing that?" My mining friends are asked these questions all the time too. This is what started the Mad Mumsy journey to share stories and tips from living a mining lifestyle and to let others know what it's really like. Tune in each episode as I sit down for a relaxed chat, usually over a few beers, with a fellow miner. Women and blokes with various experience, roles and opinions share their lessons and stories with you. Not everyone is cut out to be a miner, but why not? What does it take to thrive and survive in this industry? Now, let's dig in. Get it? Dig. Mining. Crack me up. Hello and welcome to episode 72 of the Beers with a Miner podcast. I am Mad Mumsy and this is another happy hour episode. Today I speak with kick-ass woman, author and coal train driver, Jody Sainsbury. And it's a great conversation. I really enjoyed hanging out. It took us 2 days to get there because the first time I went, we spoke so much about all of the things she's doing and maybe an upcoming collaboration, which you'll hear about in the episode. But also we went to the local pub and had lunch and we ended up not recording the podcast and she came to my place. Well, not my place. I'm staying as I record this at a lovely, bit posh, I must say, marina unit for 3 days. So I could get away and get some work done away from home because I work from home now. And when you're at home working, there's always something to do. There's always gardening. There's bloody dogs barking everywhere. So it's hard for me to record between trains, trucks, dogs barking, and then to top it off, they started hauling cane past my house. I thought, I can't do this. So I'm hanging out here. The real miner's been coming at night and we've been going out for dinner and having nice breakfast and watching all the action at the marina. Beautiful, beautiful Queensland skies. So I hope wherever you are, you're staying warm. Of course, you're staying safe. We're still in the middle of this COVID-19 corona effort. So hopefully, if you're listening in the future, it's all gone away and it's a big part of our history. But for now, we're still in it. So stay safe. Wash your hands. Keep your distance, but still stay socially connected, as Hard Hat mentor My Blister would say. So let's now dig into the episode. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation with Jo. I know I certainly did, and I know so much more about driving a train and how they do it and how long they work and where they go and what they do and, you know, why do they go so bloody slow sometimes and hold us up forever? And the number one question, how long are those trains? Okay, sit back, relax, grab a beer if you like, and listen in as Mad Mumsy chats with Jody Sainsbury, author of High Heels to High Vis, and also with an upcoming live radio show. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Okay, shut up, Mad Mumsy. Let us do it. Cheers. Hello, Jody Sainsbury. Welcome to the Beers with the Miner podcast.
Hello, Mad Mumsy. And thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
It is. And here we are at the Mackay Marina looking out at coal ships.
Of course.
Of course. You just can't get away from them, can we? If you are one of the people in the Biz with a Minor podcast group on Facebook, where you get to see a lot of behind-the-scenes action, you would have seen our Facebook Live that we did at one of the local pubs here, and we had lunch. We ended up having 2 beers and didn't record the podcast because school came out and it was too noisy. So here we are. We're going to try again.
We will.
I said,
second time round.
Yeah.
We'll be better.
Yeah, we will. All right. So let's start off. You have written a book called High Heels to High Vis, and I just love it. I love it. And thank you so much, my sister, Hard Hat Mentor, hi bless her, and me, actually get a mention in there. So thank you for that.
You're
We've
welcome.
forgotten that.
Yes, you do get a mention because you ladies are like pioneers of this industry where the female employees come into working in the industry. So I've read a little bit about it and I've spoken to both of you and I learnt a lot about yourselves and your mother being a pioneer in the industry. So that's a great milestone and achievement to make and very excellent role models to look up to. So thank you.
Oh, my God. Thank you. Oh, if it wasn't COVID at the moment, I'd come and give you a big hug.
Yes, and I'm a hugger too. So we'll elbow bump like we have been.
We have been elbow bumping, that's right. So why did you decide to write a book?
It came up first off from a Facebook ad for how to write a book workshop. And it was on my days off and I thought, what the hell? Something to do. I'm going to go along to this. Went along to the half-day workshop and was totally enwrapped in it and signed up and said, I'm going to write a book. And then I walked away thinking, what am I going to write a book about? Typical, act on impulse. So I walked away, but then as a couple of days moved on, it became quite apparent because I was getting asked quite a lot from other women, how did you get your job? That's unbelievable what you do. I couldn't do that. And it made me think, yes, you can. Anyone can do the job. Everyone is capable of doing the job. So I thought, that's what I'm going to write my book about. My transition from coming out of the corporate sector, working in corporate majority of my life, stepping out into the industry, the rail and mining industry, and into High Vis. So that was where I started. And the book notes and writing began during my layoff time and downtime whilst driving a train.
Wow. And yes, you heard that right. Although if you listen to the intro, you'd know by now she drives trains. But I'm so used to saying, like for me, I started writing notes. I was going to write a book as well, but I ended up doing a podcast instead because I love to talk. So that's what I started doing as well, writing notes. And then I started writing lists. I'm a real list head about everything. And that's what I've brought with me here for these 3 days is all my books and all my notes. And they're all, did yours get kind of dark from the dirt, black hands getting on? Well, we'll get into that, but they're well worn, shall we say.
Well worn, and they're plagiarised something chronic with highlighter pens. They look like a kindergarten's crayon book. We've got different coloured highlighting throughout all my books. So, yes, I love my books. I'm myself, and anyone has worked with me or knows me, I'm a really big note taker, always have been, journaler. So it was natural for me to sit down with a notebook and start writing. So, yes, I'm one of those people as well that I love to read, I love to learn, and from there you get an idea and you start writing.
And now we have a real book.
We do, and it was such an overwhelming feeling. And I was actually out at work because we had a bit of an issue, a delivery issue with the arrival of my book. So it was about 3 weeks overdue and they hadn't turned up. So we followed up with the sender and the printers And we found them sitting in a depot down in Toowoomba where they'd been accidentally addressed to and not to my address. So when they eventually got rerouted to my address, I was actually out on shift and my husband received the books and he rang me and he said, "Do you want me to open them?" I was like, "No, don't open them. That's my moment." So when I got home the next night after shift and I was finished for the swing, we had this big opening ceremony, himself and I, and it was absolutely an exhilarating feeling to open that box and see your hard-covered book sitting right in front of you and lots of copies sitting there. So it's an unreal feeling, and it's a very good feeling of accomplishment and fulfillment. And it was just a point of, well, I wrote this book and I wasn't too concerned whether I sold 1 copy, 50 copies or 500 copies. I've sold quite a few, so I'm quite happy with that. But it was an accomplishment, and I'm very glad that I sat down and done it. And I'm a published author now, so I'm very, very excited and proud of that.
And so you should be. And you will probably hear the noise in the background. That was Jo patting her book on the table. This is like it's your baby, isn't it? I can see that. Now, I'm going to have to smack you if you keep doing that, though, okay?
You did warn me about the background noise, and I'm new to this, so yes.
It's all good. Hey, so it is very remiss of me that usually my first question, although sometimes it is my last question, is since this podcast is called the Beers with Minor podcast, what is your favourite drink, Jo? Could be beer, wine, spirit, perhaps even a cup of tea. And did you have it when you and your husband had the opening ceremony looking at the books? That's what triggered I'm like, oh, geez, I forgot to ask.
I like my refreshments, so I don't just have one favourite. I do like beer, wine, CC, and the old Southern Comfort now and then. So, and particularly when times call upon, tequila.
Slam.
Oh, tequila, lime and soda, yeah.
Oh, right, yep.
So, or a margarita or anything with tequila in I like.
Nice. So, your beer of choice, what would that be?
That changes. I have quite a few favourites. At the moment, I'm drinking Carlton Dry. I have been a mid-strength lady before.
Oh, right, which is what we are drinking today.
At the moment, yep.
And cheers. Congratulations on your book. Now, before we move on to your story in mining, how can the listeners get the book?
Okay, so it's available on Amazon and also through my website. There's the link there, and that's at www.kickasswomen.com.au.
Kick-ass women. She's got the top on, and we'll get a few more photos here. And I got little prezzies when I got my book. Oh, you have to sign mine as well.
We will.
Yes, make sure. Oh, you probably did.
I thought I did.
Yeah, but not with you. Oh, that was
prior.
Yes.
That was pre-order.
Pre-ordered. I got in early. I was the early bird. Yeah. So kickasswomen.com.au.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Perfect. All right, let's dig in. Get it? Dig. Mining.
And we'll keep on track. Rail.
And that's your saying, keep on track. All right, let's get on track. How the hell did you end up getting from corporate to driving coal trains? Okay, so as with everyone, now and then I had an oh shit moment in my life and found myself unemployed for a period, but also doing a period of incarceration. So I come out unemployed and having to restart and find myself a job, but give myself a boot of self-confidence and self-worth, and that's where it started. So I started looking for jobs, and of course that's a long, hard journey to go through once you've been unemployed for a while, and was applying for everything and anything. And yes, and I thought, no, I need to step away from the office type work and the corporate work, so we'll try applying for anything and everything. And so a trainee train driver position come up.
And I filled out the application online and I sat there for at least half an hour before I finally got the guts to hit the submit button because I was doubting myself the whole time thinking, no, I couldn't do this. So I hit the submit button and the rest is history. I got the job and I absolutely, genuinely and honestly can say I love my job. I wouldn't look back now. It is just something that I find fulfilling and I love it with a passion. And it's it's a job that anyone can do. Everyone is capable of doing it. It's not a rocket science job or anything like that. It's particularly for the ladies or for women, step outside of your comfort zone. Get used to being a little bit of uncomfortable because it's not that hard.
And look at you now, kicking butt as a kick-ass woman, writing a book and everything. Okay, so just to go back a little bit, let me know if you don't want to talk about this, but you don't have to say why you're incarcerated. But any one of us at any time, something could happen and that's where we end up. And I know that I've definitely had some people ask me, can I get a job in the mines if I've got a record? So how did you go with that? What were the steps?
You do. Everyone's employable, and that's something. Don't let your past define you. That's a big lesson to learn, and everyone learns from their life lessons. And you need to just keep looking forward and don't look back. But there are lots of people that work out in the industry that are or do have a criminal history, and that is part of inclusion and diversity for a lot of, or nearly all employers now. So you cannot discriminate against someone that has a criminal history. And if they have the ability and the keenness and the warrant to work, why should they be discriminated? So no, there's no reason why you cannot get a job in the industry.
Wow. See, I didn't know that. So do they not do police checks anymore or... I thought you did.
Yep. So, yeah, there is a police check involved, and I'm pretty sure all employment or recruitment applications now involve a police check. So it'll come up either positive or negative. If it comes up positive, it's up to it's at the employer's discretion whether or not they want to follow up with that or whether they just ask you. You can, you're upfront about it. You need to be upfront about it. And as I said, it's the employer's choice whether or not they give you a chance and they overlook that. And as I said, it's all part of inclusion and diversity. So,
and because it could have been a long time ago.
And that's right. And mine was 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. So it's there's a lot of judgment passed around by someone that has been incarcerated, and it's pretty hardcore. It's pretty hard to deal with at the time, but as I said, you get over that and you don't dwell on it, you don't look back, and people shouldn't judge someone for one thing that they, one bad decision they made. And everyone has skeletons in their closets. It's just that they're not all brought out.
Especially you look around on a crew of 60 people. If you really wanted to start digging, and if you stay with them long enough, you'll find out most of the gossip about everybody, be it true or not.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that with us, Jody. That's really special. So what are I'm trying to think of the most common questions that you get. How long are those trains? Because in case you've never seen a coal train, they're like a freight train that just keeps going and going and freaking going and going and going. But it's, it's gold on there. Well, it's not gold. It's money. It's coal. And when I look at it, I think, what the effort and the time and the so many different parts of mining that got that from out of the ground onto that train barreling in front of me. And now as we're sitting here looking at all these ships waiting to go into Hay Point, just how far it comes to get there, and then it goes and it's like, well, we don't care about after that. Well, we're meant to. Oh, shut up. Climate change has been so quiet. It's been peaceful, hasn't it?
It has. So our trains are just over 2 kilometres in length.
Wow, 2 kilometres.
That's right.
That's long.
So that's a mighty walk, good for exercise if you need to walk the train to check any defects or if you've got an issue with it. But
I got my hand up. There'll be a lot of that, right? Because I know nothing about trains, hardly anything, probably about as much as you listening. So with our trucks or machines, we have to do a full walk around. So you don't have to walk 2 kilometres that way, 2 kilometres back every pre-start?
No, we have a train inspection checklist that a train has to have done once every 28 days, and it's a complete check over of the train, and that is to be up to date and on the train each day when you get on board. But no, if a train has an issue and you're pulled up somewhere or it's gone through a wheel detector or a dragging equipment alarm or something, and you've been called to pull up and you're deemed to walk the train to find any issue with it or investigate and fault find. So you do have to walk the 2 kilometres down to the end of the train and the 2 kilometres back. So as I said, it's good exercise and I enjoy it. But so it's just over 2 kilometres in length. We trail 126 wagons. And we're electric trains, so we are generated by 3 electric locomotives, and we have dynamic and regenerative braking. So we put some energy and power back up into the overheads when we brake, and that energy is reused with other trains as they go up and down the line. So that's an energy efficient aid to the climate control.
Yeah,
there.
go us. I mean, go you. Us. I'm claiming it. I know all about trains now. Right?
So that's a start.
Yep. And what about, so they're electric, like if the power goes off, you just stop?
Yes. So if
slowly or fastly? Is that a word?
It comes to a steady stop. If we can have a trip quite regularly in the overhead, so it'll lose its dynamic braking and power, so it'll come to a nice neat stop. But you can also apply a pneumatic brake to aid in that, and then you need to get authority from the train network control, and they have an officer called the ECO who's in charge of all the overhead power and whatnot. So he goes online and he checks all his boards and monitors and whatnot and comes back to say, yes, you can raise your pantograph again, which is that little monumental figure on top of the loco, as you see, that runs along the overhead wire. So that's called the pantograph. So that actually is your power source there. And so then you continue on in your journey. You start again and off you go.
So many questions. Okay, so just back to your little walk around bit. Are you allowed to, if you're fundamentally stable, parked up, shut down or whatever, are you allowed to walk between I don't even know what to call it, go over the bit that joins them all up? The wagons, yeah. Oh my God, Matt Mumsy, you're crap.
So there's 2 wagons into a tandem, thus a tandem, there's the name. And at one particular section of that tandem, in between 2 wagons, there is a crossover access where that is your egress to cross over if you are deemed to get on the other side of that train. If it's up close towards the loco, you can just walk around the front of the loco, but you need a distance of 9 metres where you have to walk in front of the loco, and the train is fully under protection, which we call 3-step protection. So it has to be at any time when it's stationary, put in 3-step protection for our own safety and the train stability and stationary protection there.
So 3 steps is that
so
like, can I guess?
Go on.
The power is shut down or isolated. The power is isolated. There's some sort of other braking system in place, like a park brake, kind of, and you're away from it. Well, no, her face is going, close, nah. Number 3 you didn't get.
So you're pretty well spot on. So, yes, so your throttle is isolated, and then we have the 2 brakes. So we have an independent brake which is put in fully applied, and then the pneumatic brake is put into full service. So that's our 3-step protection.
Right, so it's 2 braking systems.
Yep.
And the throttle is isolated.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's good. So it shouldn't run away.
No, and hopefully, and depending,
theory.
well, in theory,
Neither should trucks.
and depending on the gradient where you're parked up in the track. So if it is on a bit of a downhill gradient, if it's a loaded train, you will or may possibly have to hop out and apply some handbrakes, which are on the wagons there. So depending on the gradient, if you're in a position where the 3-stop protection will hold the train in place securely, the handbrakes aren't required. But if you're in a position where the weight of the train could force it forward without on top of that 3-step protection, you are required to put the handbrakes on to secure that train completely.
So are they like clamps? I'm thinking like in our trucks we would have chocks.
Yep.
Or put some dirt up there, push if there's a truck broken down on the ramp. Push gump. Used to have to do that on the loader. And get up there and put some. Oh, I'm not going there. What if it rolls away? It'll run me over in my little loader. Just do it. Hurry up. Safely, of course. Safely.
No, well, we don't put anything under the wheels because that could be a possible obstruction and derail us. But if it was a,
well, you take it. You got to take it away. Although many people run over chocks.
They do, and we do.
Hammered.
We do with a locomotive. If locomotive is stored stationary for like maintenance reasons or whatnot, and it is chocked, that's an added step of protection there. So a lot of the times those chocks are forgotten about. So you've started the loco up and put in either forward or reverse, and yes, clunk, and a bit of a chewed up timber flies out to the side. So yes.
So what is a handbrake then?
So the handbrake is the wheel. You'll see 2 wheels in between a set of the wagons, and they're on both sides. So the handbrakes can be applied on both sides of the wagons and released both sides of the wagons. So that's just like a manual turning chain, like geared link on a chain. So it winds the brake on to the wagon and secures that set of that axle there.
Yeah. So that's like more that's mechanical.
Like
it's a mechanical.
It's a mechanical aid, and it's just like your handbrake on your car. So you'll apply the handbrake, you'll wind it on, and then you need to wind it off when you're ready to go. Before you're ready to go.
Yeah. It'd be. I'm just thinking you got 2 kilometres worth of wheels. With us, we got 6 on a big dump truck. So you got 6 wheels, tyres to look at if you get the chocks out or not. And if you got 2, so in 2 how many wagons did you say that is?
So you've got 126 wagons. So it's 62 or 63 tandems.
Oh right. Yeah, 63 places where you could forget.
Yes. So
and someone else did.
And that's an important part of your process. So if you're winding on handbrakes, you need to record how many you've wound on. So when you're taking them off, you're taking that exact same amount off and recording the wagons that you applied them. So you're taking them off those same wagons. And they're checked and double checked to make sure they're released, because if they aren't released, that's where we get our flats and skids on the wheels. So, and that's not good.
Okay. Why not? I can imagine. Kind of Fred Flintstone moment.
It is. And you'll get the burn mark and the flat mark in the wheel on the rail, so it burns out and it causes a flat stop. So flat spot, sorry. So when you hear a train go past you, if you're at the crossing and you hear the da-dunk, 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 that's a flat on one of the wheels.
Oh, you'll be sitting there going, that's a flat. Can you call them up on what channel are you on? Copy train going past so you got a flat on your wheel. Yeah, no shit, I'm on the way to the workshop. But they're contributed by a number of factors. But yeah, if you leave handbrakes on, that's a pretty bad thing to do, and that's an effect that can happen there. Yeah.
You get some skidded wheels and flats on your wheels.
And I suppose that therefore damages the tracks. Could it? Does it?
It could do. They get a bit of rail burn, I think, but also it's your wheel.
Yeah, right.
It's your wheel wear and tear there and defect.
When we were having lunch yesterday, we started talking. I'm like, I know, right? I'm like, shut up. Don't tell me now. I need to wait. But it was good because it triggered a lot of other things that I wasn't even thinking of asking you. So let's talk about from a point of view of us, like me and the listeners, who are driving down the road out to the mines or wherever, because once to get to port, they're sort of away from the mines a fair bit. And you see a train and it's going really slow at the crossing and it's 2 kilometres long. What's going on there? And can you hurry up, please? Because I've got to hurry up and get out to work, or better still, I've got to get home. Yeah, we had some really fun stories about that.
Yeah. So a huge part of the driver's job is knowing everything about the route they're driving. So that's the sections, the speed restrictions and signals to the gradients and some slight bumps in the track. So if you do come across a train going slow through a road crossing, they will be on a speed restriction. So our normal track speed is 80 kilometres per hour. So you'll see us rattling away down the track at 80 kilometres an hour.
And that's pretty fast.
It is pretty fast, and it's a pretty good feeling to be in there experiencing that. But, yeah, so unfortunately, and it happens quite a bit, our track gets its little potholes, so to speak. Well, we call them clay holes. So we're deemed to abide by temporary speed restrictions, and they can vary from 15 kilometres an hour up to 25, up to 30, up to 50 or 60. So that's why if you see a train going slow through the crossing, it'll more than likely be on a temporary speed restriction. And also to be mindful, if it's on that track, there's more than likely one on the adjacent track. So if a train is passing you on the track directly in front of you at the crossing, be mindful that another passing train could be coming the other way on the other track, and it will go just as slow. So it's like double time sitting there waiting. And then another couple more cigarettes standing outside beside the car.
Yeah, because that's what you can do. When you get held up by a coal train, you can it's not necessarily have a smoke. No. I suppose you can if you want. But you can't have a beer because you're driving.
Of course.
But you could get out and a little bit of fatigue management. Yep. Do a few star jumps.
That's it.
So everyone laugh, do a bit of boxing, at least go for a walk. At least stand up and have a look at the sky.
Something like that. And it is. That's an ideal opportunity to get a little bit of movement in and, manage your fatigue for about 10 minutes maybe.
Wow.
Definitely.
Yeah. And these are the reasons also why you need to, which I share quite a bit about, plan ahead your trip when you drive, because a lot of people around this area drive in, drive out to the mines. Even if you're going to the airport to fly, you got to allow for some shit to go on. There could be a very slow train in front of you, other than, roadworks, accidents, all the other things. But there could be an oversized coming down a range and you've got to wait 3/4 of an hour sometimes. Mm. And I nearly got past it. Or it's worse when you're behind one. Am I safe to go now? Am I safe to go? That's why I have a handheld two-way in your car so you can hear what's going on. And they're letting us all by, or they're pulling up at the next town, or because you can't. You think, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going really. I'm overtaking this thing. There's only a little bit of room on the outside if it's big. No,
it's definitely well worth the purchase to buy a two-way radio if you're travelling in the vehicle. And I mean, we see some pretty mad manoeuvres on the highway when we have the viewpoint, when the train is travelling beside the highway, where the track is located beside the highway, particularly on our highway, our Peak Downs highway, we see some pretty mad manoeuvres, and it raises the heart rate in the train because we think, oh, are they going to make it? Are they going to make it? Are they going to make it? Oh, thank God they made it.
And then do you think, what a fucking idiot.
I wasn't going to say that.
Hey, you're allowed to swear on this podcast. It's marked
We
explicit.
do. We have some explicit language and say, why the fuck did they do that? And then also we've seen some of the aftermath of sitting on the highway after they've made some of these mad manoeuvres and they haven't been successful in carrying them out. So please take care and manage your fatigue. If you're going to drive home, pull over, have the rest, and then start your journey again. But always drive to the conditions and be very mindful and be vigilant of what's around you and what's coming towards you. So, yes, definitely.
And I guess when the highway's shut, you can still keep going a lot of the times. Like if it's shut because someone's died, it can be shut all day. And so that would be heartbreaking to go past and see the fireys, the cops, the ambulance, see all the traffic. You'd be like, I've been stuck in that.
It is. It's a thought that initially comes into your mind, and then you're thinking of the actual people that are involved, of course. But yes, unfortunately, we do see that, and it's something that you don't want to see. So if it can be avoided, please avoid it.
Yeah, yeah. that was a bit nice. I think I need a drink. Yeah. How's yours gone?
It's good.
I just wanted to know, when you're in the cab itself, like when you're actually driving the train, right? Do you have to steer it? Like, what's the actual operational? And is it just you, or is there two of you? And is there only one engine, or is there another one halfway, or one at the back, or all of that? There you go. That'll keep. I might go get another drink.
Whilst you're gone.
Yeah.
So we're always a two-person crew. Apart from down locally, we have what they call do territory, which is a driver only, and that's only from UCAN to Hay Point that one driver is allowed or authorised to operate the train and drive the train. Past UCAN, it's always a two-person crew. So one, and depending on your crew member, so we take it in turns. One will drive the empty out and the other driver will act as the driver's assistant at the DA position on that shift. And the roles will reverse on the shift coming back with the loaded. So, and then we reverse again on the next shift out. So we just, take it in turns. But so the driver in charge operates the train. The DA is responsible for keeping vigilant at all times. You have to call and cross-call your signals because that's our main regulation to driving the train. We have to abide to our signalling system. So, which is just like our traffic lights on the road. We have our red, yellow and green lights. So to pass a red light, which we call in our terminology is to pass a signal passed at danger, it's a SPAD, so that's a major safety breach. So we have to abide by our signalling system. That's the number one rule for us. And so, so the driver and the DA, they call and cross-call the signals as they can see them and up to the point where they pass them. Question. Yes, ma'am.
So how would we call and cross? So if I saw a signal and go, well, Loco Joe, we got a yellow light coming up, and you go, copy, yellow light coming up, how far away?
So, okay.
Like, how does it go?
Okay, so it's in sighting distance, so you can see them up ahead. So you'll call, yellow ahead, next one red. So a yellow is a caution and more or less to tell you that the next signal will be at a stop. If it's a flashing yellow, that's a reduced speed. The crossover points ahead of you could be against you, or there is the next signal is at a red again. Green is for go. We see a green. Green it is. Green.
Wake up.
Green we go. So, yes, a yellow is a cautionary light. So more than likely your next signal will be a red. So it always precedes a red. So a yellow is an indication your next signal is red. So you need to prepare when you sight that yellow signal to bring your train to a stop at the next signal, which will be red.
And how long do they take to pull up?
Now,
here we go. This is why we ended up having 2 beers over lunch.
So if we're traveling along the track at 80 kilometres an hour on an empty train, we have the capacity, we have dynamic braking, which is pretty instantaneous braking, but it still takes a considerable amount of distance to pull that train to a stationary stop. So worst case scenario is with the loaded. You've got all that added weight. It's 113,500 tonne of coal in a loaded train, in our loaded trains. And that's a lot of weight behind you. So if you have to throw on that emergency brake, that's a massive push of weight behind you and a massive force on the braking system to pull that weight up. And it will could take up to 800 metres, 600 metres to pull up. So if you're chancing to cross a road crossing or beat a train, please rethink and do not attempt to, because it's not an instantaneous action to pull up a train. No way in the world. So yeah, don't contemplate trying to beat the train across the crossing or down the track. It's not an instantaneous stop. So it can take up to 800 metres to pull that train up.
And do you see that happen very often?
Not so much. We see a couple of road crossing daredevils. We've had a couple of close calls, near misses just recently in the past couple of months. So yeah, it does happen, but not a lot of the time, which is good.
That's good.
It is good.
Because where we are here is sugarcane harvest time has just began here in, what is it, end of June?
Yep, through to November, I think it is. Yeah.
And they're long as well, not as long as you, but they can be really long. They are slow. Yeah. They don't go 80 Ks ever.
No, but they have the same capacity to inflict a lot of damage and a fairly severe collision if you come in, and derailment. They are susceptible to derail a lot easier than what we are. But in saying that, so are we. If the force was there and there happened to be a defect in the track, and we were called to put that emergency in, there could be a possible derailment there.
Have you ever been in a derailment?
No, not myself. No, and I don't think I'd like to experience it.
No, we don't want you coming back talking about that. Thanks. And if there is one, that it does, holds everything up. Doesn't
that's
it?
Right. So
for a long time.
Yep. So if that's the case, all trains are called to a stop wherever they are. Network control will put out an emergency call over the network radio, and all trains will be pulled to a stop and secured, and no one is moving until that scenario is attended to and cleared.
And that can take weeks.
It could. So, yeah, so until
like flooding and everything as well.
That's right, yep. Until they remove, obstructions, if it's obstructing the other track, where they can move traffic at least on one track. So, yeah, it could be days if it's a major derailment or a fairly large derailment that's affected both tracks. Otherwise, they'll what's the word?
I don't know. Shunt?
Oh, no. Well, they'll make...
That's one train word I know. I don't know what it is, really. I think Thomas the Tank Engine.
Until they secure the side and they remove any obstruction from the other track. As long as the other track's got clear passage, they'll allow traffic through.
Right.
But, yeah, but shunt is a good word. Yes, you shunt the wagons when you're... attaching or detaching a wagon off or a locomotive off the train. That is a shunting movement.
So what is it, just kind of like pushing it or inching it forward or just moving it a little bit?
Yeah, either way. It could be either way. So the locomotive powers, so you'll do a reverse propelling movement to ease back up and hook onto a wagon, or you'll ease away and you'll uncouple the wagon first, of course, and you pull away and leave the wagons behind that you need to and secure them if you're leaving them behind, and off you'll go with a couple of wagons less.
And a couple of questions there. So do you uncouple them manually?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are they heavy? Is it a big pin? Is it?
It's so you've got your brake pipe hose where the air goes through for your brake cylinder pressure and whatnot. So those each wagon has a brake pipe cock and the valve and the hose, so that has to be closed. You unhook the brake pipe hoses from between the wagons. You have the ECP cable, which is your electric power, your train line power system. So that has to be turned off, and you disconnect that, and then you'll release the coupler pin, which will, when the forward section of the train moves ahead, it'll unhook. So it's like a release lever that you lift it up and the pin undoes the couplers, like loosens them, and then they come apart when you pull away. So.
Cool. Hey, that's a bit special. So if you have to reverse up onto it, do you have a spotter, or do you have a camera, or do you have cameras as well? There's two good questions.
That's technology. We wish we had cameras.
Oh,
that
you
would
don't?
because we do have to have, you cannot do a rear propelling movement without protection at the rear of your train. So you have to have that person or your spotter or your DA or a ground crew member standing at the rear of the train guiding you back, and they'll guide you in how many metres you've got to go before you reattach, or you're coming back onto the wagons or onto the train portion.
So if that's 1.5 kilometres away from the back of the train to where you are, do you do that over the radio?
So always
or
positive.
With binoculars looking in your mirror, because we do hand movements in your mirror.
Positive comms. But yeah, the person on the ground will guide you back. They'll be walking at the rear of the train. They'll be so far, like 100 metres, 150, 200 metres behind the rear of the train. They'll guide you back that 200 metres. They'll pull you to a stop. They'll walk another 200 metres and call you back, bit by bit, and then guide you onto the portion that's sitting there waiting for you to attach to. But yeah, so that can either be done via someone in a car, but predominantly done on the ground.
Yeah.
So someone on the ground walking and guiding the train back and calling on the radio, 300 metres to go to attach, or
300 metres.
200 metres to go. Could be 1,000 metres to go. But so there is always protection at the back. That's the rule. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I need another drink. Do you need a drink? Now for a word from our sponsor, Julia Hartman and the Bantax Accounting Group. Julia's my awesome accountant. She's written 2 books with financial expert Noel Whittaker, and she's got a passion to help us miners make the most out of our hard-earned cash. She's got heaps of tips and make sure that we get every cent we are meant to get, and is right on the ball with everything. If you head to bantax.com.au/miners, that's BANTACS, you can download a free booklet all just for us miners. And there's also a spreadsheet in there that helps you check off what tools you have for your trade, like your isolation lock, work boots, 7 shirts, all of these sorts of things. And you can weigh them up, and it'll tell you if you qualify weight-wise to claim your trips out to work. And that's just one of the things that they've got over there. So I strongly urge you to head to bantax.com.au/miners and see what they can do, and find your nearest office as we come up to tax time. They're really on the ball, know what's going on with the tax department, and there's heaps of other free information like property investing. If you really plan on doing some great things with your money, you want to do that, right? If you want to sell your house, can save a lot of money if you find out what to do first rather than in hindsight. And Julia, she'll, make sure you get it right. And if you do it wrong and then go and see her, she'll up you in the nicest possible way, because she really cares about us and wants us to keep our money and not give it to the tax department. Anyway, head over to bantax.com.au/miners and tell them Mad Mumsy sent you. So I've got another drink, because I'm right. I'm staying right here looking at the view for a couple of days. Joe's not.
I go home to the scenic country view.
The scenic country view. Oh, good segue. So let's talk about views, because how long does it take you from, because you go to different mine sites, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So let's talk about how long it takes and what you see along the way.
All right. So on any given shift, it could vary. So we could leave port and it could take only 3.5 hours to get to the mine that we're going to.
Only.
Yep. On another day, it could take 8.5 hours to get from port out to site.
To the same mine?
To the same mine.
Oh.
Yes. So that's all contributed by whether there's track maintenance going on, there's defects in the track and you've got speed restrictions, so those speed restrictions slow you down. There could be closures, so they've only got one track operating, so they might let 2 empties go and then they'll let a loaded back down on that one track. So you're sitting waiting your turn to go. So, so it could vary. You know, you could get out to site in 3.5, 4 hours and start loading, or it could take you 8.5 hours to get out to site before you start loading. And then the loading, it averages around – oh, sorry. Yes.
Got my hand up again. I'm just thinking about when you're on the way out there.
Oh, yep.
Do you see many critters?
Oh,
Do you have big kick-ass women? What about kick-ass
kangaroos?
And do they do much damage?
Yes. So
I know emus are bad out there, can be. They make a mess.
Yeah, we don't. You see them on the side, but not so much up on the track. But I love my now office view because we get to see so many seasonal changes. We get to see some spectacular sunrises and sunsets, beautiful starry nights, meteors, shooting stars, all that. And it's unreal to see from the big windows in front of the loco. It's a great view. And, of course, you see nature, flora and fauna at its best and its worst. So we have roadkill and track kill, unfortunately, and they can't be avoided. We can't pull up a heavy, 113,500 tonne loaded train to avoid, unfortunately, a koala bear on the track or a kangaroo. Yes, unfortunately, and they are pretty common in their season. Very sad, and that was the first animal I unfortunately hit with a train when I was driving. Kangaroos are very, very predominant, but not so when the green grass is around. They come out close to the side of the corridor and that for the green pick when it's dry and whatnot. But once there's been a heap of rain and the paddocks are full of green, you don't see them that much. But unfortunately, they do come out early mornings during the night and they cross in front of you and there's no avoiding them. Kangaroos are pretty, they just seem to bounce off. And we've got like what they call a cow catcher at the front of the loco, so that they pretty well bounce off, and sometimes they land in the middle of the tracks and whatnot. You'll see the roadkill, the track kill there, but unfortunately, and birds aren't so bad. You might hit a bird here and there, but predominantly, unfortunately, snakes. You'll run over the snake, and they like to hide in between the warm ballast. So if you're changing points at a crossover or walking at night and that, you've got to be very vigilant about those nice little critters.
Oh, no. Oh, my God, I'm going to be sick. I hate snakes. Everyone knows about Mumsy knows I got issues with snakes.
So we see lots of them. The pigs are good to see. You see them getting around, and there used to be a fairly healthy big mob in one particular area we used to see, but we haven't seen them for a while. But they're out there. You see them pretty much all the time in their hour of wandering. But so it is, and like I said, to see the seasonal changes of the landscape, and then we witness the vast change to the more or less drought last year. It was absolutely near dirt, the whole way out on our trip to when we got all the rain, and it more or less changed. The green grass was there like overnight. It was unbelievable. And the green turned into like a fluorescent green. It was magic. It really was to see that. So, and that's a good thing. And we see all of the cattle nice and fat now from the green grass. But so we get to see some pretty awesome sights. The wedge-tailed eagles are one of my favourites. They're majestic birds, so they come in for a bit of a pick at the roadkill on the track there, and they'll fly off. And thank goodness I haven't hit any one of those. We get the swans. Occasional black swan is out flying around out of the waters, and there's some pelicans that live out west there, out near Moranbah in a dam. So yeah, we see different. There's an osprey that gets around every now and then. We see him, so I don't know. Yeah, he must nest somewhere inland there and go back out to sea. But yeah, you see some pretty good sights, and of course the emus. They're good to see. They wander around. The little chicks follow the family. Yeah, so they're good to see. But yeah, haven't seen. I think I've seen one of them unfortunately be hit. But yeah, they're pretty good. They seem to steer clear of the track.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Good. Yeah,
yeah. We
cattle though.
Yes,
they're a bit of a problem. So if they get out, they tend to wander across the track, and they do get they get hit and they can cause some damage. So yeah,
because I know out that way there's quite a few unfenced areas as well. You go through a sign that says cattle are here, no fences, or however they put it. I was like, well, put up bloody fence. Why am I driving when there's no fences? What's going on? Because it's all about the cattle. They're the boss.
And let them wander.
And you just got to sit there, and especially when I first started mining, I had a little Hyundai XL, and some of the trucks used to wave me around, and I'm like, nah, you're right, mate.
You're take the fall.
You're going faster than me. Yeah, so there's quite a lot of cattle out there, and I have seen an emu get hit on one of the roads out, and the mess it made, the feathers, because they must be really thick. Well, they are, aren't they? They're feathers. And it was just everywhere. It looked like mass murder. It was terrible. Well, it was. It was horrible.
It is. And it's like the deer, because the deer are pretty prominent out in Moranbah there as well. So there's been a couple of deer hit, but and again, thank goodness, I wouldn't like to hit Bambi. I have a close affiliation to Bambi, so I'd be pretty upset if I hit Bambi.
So how did you handle... Like the first thing that you hit in a train was a koala.
Oh,
did you nearly quit? I'd be like, no, fuck that, I can't do that.
No, I was near devastated because it was months and I hadn't, and it was a bit of thing. The other trainees, they'd all, unfortunately had come across a kangaroo or had hit a few by that time, and I hadn't hit anything. And then the very first animal I hit was a koala bear sitting on the track with his back to us. And
at least you didn't see his eyes.
So I was blasting the whistle. I had the lights turned out to see if I could, encourage him to move. But no, turned the lights back on. He was just there. And it was, unfortunate. But, I was devastated, absolutely devastated. Now I just, get out of the way.
Yeah. I know out at work we've had a few things like that. We used to have some emus going around, and the little families, you'd see them, all throughout the right times, and the chicks' numbers would just get less and less. And I remember this one band camp, right? I think I might have told this story before on the podcast, but I'll tell you. We weren't racing, right? Because you're not allowed to race. But I was going to win. It was a bit of a debate because we had to go from one side of the pit, open cut, right, one big pit, had to go from one side of the pit, the crew part, to down the ramp, down into the hole. And some people were going one way and some people were going the other way. And we all thought our way was the way to go. I said, right, at crib, that's it, we'll see. Anyway, I lost, but I had to I didn't have to. I chose to stop to let a family of emus go past on the haul road.
Well,
because I can. It doesn't take me 800 metres to slow down. We were empty and I could see far enough ahead. Of course, when I say racing, it's within the rules. We were doing the speed limit, blah, blah, blah. Not blah, blah, blah. Safety is very serious. People know Mad Mumsy. That's how it is. But and they're like, yeah, sure you did, Leanne. Yeah, sure. And it's true. And then you'd be at the waterfield point and see him like, oh, hello. And all the what did you say before? The swans.
Yep.
Yeah, and the babies and stuff. Yeah.
So,
it's good, isn't it?
It is good to see them, but it's not good to see them perish, unfortunately.
No.
But they unfortunately don't have a sense of the track or the road.
Yeah, yeah. So it can take anywhere from 3 hours to 8.5 hours to get out there.
Yep. Pending.
And then what happens? I know. I knew I had another question. Sorry. Before we get to that. You don't go to a crib hut to eat for lunch or to have a break, how do you have a break? Because it's very important to focus, and you've got to, be watching for signals and all of that, what's going on all the time between you and your DA. So what happens there?
So we generally, and the general rule is, you take your breaks when you come to a red signal or in a part of the track where there's no signals for a length of time. So, but predominantly you take your breaks and your meal breaks when you're at a red signal.
So you don't go, right, it's 11 o'clock, I've worked 5 hours, I haven't had a break. Go into the cribber, get someone to hot seat me, not happening.
No, and like we can take turns, like if the driver, usually predominantly you probably eat whilst you're loading the train or unloading the train because the train's going at ultra slow speed.
Which we'll get to next.
Yes. But, yeah, so either at red signals or you got dwells. We might have a dwell. You might be pulled up at a section.
When you're dwelling on something about the universe, how are we going to save the world? How are we going to get those koalas off the track?
Yeah. So we could have a dwell at a section for like an hour and a half, or it could be 3 hours. So
and you don't know, do you?
No.
Stop hitting the table or I will smack you.
I'm learning.
It's all right. This is good practice for you.
So those dwells you'll utilise that as a meal time, and we do have a saying, because it gets pretty boring in the DA seat. If you're not operating the train, you're sitting there, you're keeping your vigilance on that, but we call that the eat seat because you just don't stop snacking or eating because that occupies you a bit more than using the operating the train. But yeah, that's the eat seat, the DA seat.
I think we digressed before we spoke about actually operating the train. So there's no steering wheel.
There's no steering wheel.
Is it just all levers and buttons? Yes, and is it like a plane on the inside? I'm visualising.
Yeah, it is similar to like a plane. You've got two computer screens in front of you, and they have little tile buttons all around them which operate the software. And then you have your throttle and your two brake handles, and then you have your board of all your switches of your lights and your windscreen wipers, and you have a horn and a vigilance button, which is to keep us awake. So it sounds an alarm every, I don't know, it's not timed, but randomly, and so you have to hit that vigilance button so the alarm doesn't go off. It flashes a light in the middle of the cab, and it's on a countdown. So it starts at 18 seconds and it counts down. So if you haven't hit that vigilance button by the time it's got to 1 and it goes past 1, it'll apply an emergency brake and the train will come to a stop.
Oh, wow.
And a big stop, that is.
And a big pineapple, that
yes,
is.
Very
Where
much
the
so.
hell? And because there's two of you.
Yes.
So between two of you, what the fuck's going on in that cab?
That's right.
There's another question. No, we'll say that.
So vigilance all the time, and you
hands up. Does that happen very often? Have you heard of that over the years at some band camps?
Yes, it can happen. It can happen quite regularly. It just, you might be looking at something else, or something might have taken your attention, or there could be an actual fault with the button and it may not. You'll be banging the hell out of it. Yeah, that's it. That's the word. And I just didn't get it in time.
Yeah.
Please explain.
Yeah.
So, and it does go off, and and that's you have to, unfortunately, if it's on an empty train, you have to walk the train because you may lose air. So you have to check and walk the train. On a loaded, you don't have to walk it, but you need to reset the system, and usually it'll recover, and then you'll start your journey again.
So how long does it take, if it does drop its air, how long does it take to build up?
Because
I drove a couple of water cuts over the years. It's like, can you just fix this? It takes, they're like, why are you still at the crib hut? Well, I'm building up my air. Emergency, air, can't go anywhere, waiting for the air. You should report that. It's been in the pre-start book for 2 years.
We're not going there.
Oh, that's all right. That's one band camp, one of mine. So, but does it take long?
It doesn't take too long, but maybe up to 10 minutes pending. It depends, but usually not long. Yeah, you can be up and going again within 5-7 minutes, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as we don't have any technical software issues that can sometimes happen in the ECP system. Yeah.
So the train itself can build up its own air.
Yeah, so it dumps when it does the emergency application and brakes, so it dumps all the air and the brakes all come on. So she's comes to the halt, and then all that air pressure and main reservoir pressure have to be built up and travel. It has to build up from the front of the train all the way to the back. So that's, as I said, 126 wagons until it gets to the back, and then, you're right to go.
Yeah. And is there alarm going off the whole time?
It goes off and it brings up messages, fault messages and error messages on the screen. But
no air, no shit.
Yeah. So you're pressing the shut the hell up button to stop the alarm.
Okay it out. Yes, okay it out, we call it. Yep.
And you're acknowledging the error, saying, yes, we know.
Yes, okay. That is the button on the Vims in the cat truck that has always got a hole in it, because everyone's like, okay, because they've all got faults.
And they do. And that's software, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's sometimes
just a truck.
It is, that's right.
With trucks too, just for my listeners who may not know, sometimes your truck just cannot build up its air, and so you have to get the service car or get another truck over, and then you hook up a hose, the two operators, and every site will have a procedure of how you can instill air into another truck. Make sure you do it right, because you're right at the crew part. You never know who's there. Yeah, and you get the hose, and I can hardly ever reach the coupling part where you got to click it on. So I'll say, I'll be the one in the truck. You do it. But it depends. If it's your truck, you should be the one. Get out, go and do it. And they sit in their truck. So, yeah.
So that can be a problem with the trains as well. There could be something wrong with the ECP system, the electronic system, and it may not. You can have an error. So and you will have to go and fault find, diagnose then, and that inevitably may cause you to shut down the train and restart it all up again. So that's a walk down to the locos, shut them down, restart them, and you work from back to front when you're starting up the train. So,
okay.
So you start the rear loco up first, then the next loco, and then the lead loco, and then hook it all together, like put the software, tell it to link all together. But it can take a little while if it doesn't want to play the game.
So what happens if it doesn't? Do you have fitters driving around and they've got you see a lot of signs, access point to track this and that?
That's
everywhere.
More so for maintenance, track maintenance, and
the
signal maintainers and whatnot, and points maintainers, but that's mainly for corridor access. But so there is maintenance staff though. So if the train crew cannot, they've done all their fault finding and diagnostic and they cannot get the train to go, well then that's a call to maintenance, and they'll send out maintenance crew, and they're pretty good. They usually have it up and going, and off you go again.
Yeah, and all the other trains just have to wait. Yeah.
And it'll be one track. Traffic both ways, or one track, one at a time.
Yeah. So is it two tracks all the way out, like double tracks?
Only to
there's
certain points.
One.
No. So once you get to Copperbella, you can travel out to Moranbah, two dual tracks until an area called Wottonga, and then it branches off single track.
Right.
And you'll go to mine sites one way and mine sites another way. And the same as if you're travelling in another direction from Copperbella, you go out on an angle and it stops at a certain point at a section and then goes on to single track, and you travel single track out to the mine sites in that direction.
Right.
But majority of the tracks, say Copperbella's the main junction or intersection type. And then once you leave there, you'll only travel so far, and then you'll go to single tracks.
And then you get to the site, so you've arrived.
Yes.
It took us a while to get there, didn't it?
It did.
Nearly bloody 8 hours just on our converse. 2 days it's taken us to get there. So then what happens?
So we call ahead to let the mine site know we're only about 45 minutes, an hour away from site, and they obviously get the loadout ready. And we come in and we have a train speed indicator, or we have a low speed control that we load the train with. So the train only gets loaded anywhere from 0.5 kilometre per hour up to 1.1, 1.2. So that's why it takes about up to 3.5 hours to load the train. And then if you get an overload, if you get a bit of a batching.
Take it back to the digger. No.
So we've got to stop the train. We've got to set the train back so that second driver has to go to the rear of the train, protect the train as it's setting back to reduce that overload. And that adds time onto your load then. And then, you finish the load, you weigh out, and if it's all good to go, you're not overweight anywhere, then, you're allowed to travel and start heading back to port.
So if you get an overload, do they take some off?
They do. So, you set back to the loadout. That wagon sets back to the loadout, and they'll either hose it off. Majority of the times it's hosed off nowadays because of the overhead. They don't have the machines there to
scoop it out.
Scoop it out, yeah.
So a loadout, what is that, a machine, or is that the area?
That's the area. So that's the train loadout area. So that's, I'm not sure whether a lot of people are familiar. Yeah, so it's a tower, and that an operator, or not so much. We only have a couple of operators now that man the loadouts. It's all done by a remote control centre.
Is that
majority?
Right?
Yeah, majority.
In a big city, no doubt.
In a big city, yes. Big city.
But it's still a person operating it, isn't it?
Yes,
they're just not actually there.
Yeah, that's right. And so, they have obviously lots of monitors in front of them, and they're watching, and they got cameras and looking into the wagons and set their batching percentage of how much goes into the front axle and the rear axle, and
because balance would be important.
It is,
the load.
So we have a certain weight that only up
distribution.
That's right. Only it's got a maximum weight over each bogie that is allowable. So so that's once you've got the full load, it goes over the weigh bridge, and the computer will come up and tell you whether any of those axles are overloaded over that weight range that you're allowed. And then if you are overloaded, you have to set back and reduce that load, reduce that wagon if it's been missed in the load.
Yeah.
But
And so what do you do? Well, if you've got to move at a certain, do they tell you when to move, or do you just keep going and set it at 1.5?
Yeah, so in the low speed control section or software of the train, you're setting the speed. The loadout will say, we'll load at 0.8.
Oh, they tell you.
Yeah, so they'll tell you, they'll direct you. And, you'll set your low speed control at 0.8, so it distributes the power. You can either just set the train to drive by the lead loco, or you can distribute the power by the other two locos pushing behind or whatnot. And that's pending on the balloon as well, the loadout balloon, the loop that the train goes into to load, goes in under the loadout and travels the circle around to go back out. And
like
so
a big U-turn.
Yeah, it's like a big balloon shape. So in our balloon loop where we load, so it can have some different gradients. So that your train handling will come into effect there too, because you may need to put some brake in the rear locos to keep the train at that slow speed to hold the weight back, that it's the downward force is pushing towards the front of the train. And or you may just have to have power, because it might need the power to push forward, keep accelerating. But so it's all controlled by the low speed control activation in the train. And and you sit back, keep watching that vigilance button and pressing that, and then you occupy yourself in other ways.
And so how did you find, when you first started, how did you find staying vigilant the whole time, and also when at the times, like at the stop points and when you're getting loaded? Like, well, does it feel like it's taking forever? We're never going to finish.
It does.
This day is Groundhog Day and I'm dying.
It does. So at first, it's a bit to get used to, because it can be very, very boring and draining some days at first, until you get used to it, and then you occupy yourself. So
that's right. Plan.
Yep, you do. So you either read, when you're loading the train, of course, you've got to keep your vigilance about you. And but yeah, so it's at low speed. It's under control. You can definitely bring it to a stop without any major drama. But so, yeah, you have ample time. So you have more or less 3.5 hours to occupy yourself. So I started to read, and that's where I started to write my book.
Oh, wow.
So I utilised my time on the train, at red light signals, at dwells, loading and unloading the train. If I was a DA, I'd be there with my notebook and I'd be writing. And then I'd be listening to podcasts. Mad Mumsy, beers with a minor. Let's listen to that.
Would make you thirsty.
It did. I wish I could have a beer. Yeah. So yeah,
so I'll have one for you.
you need to make the most of that time and utilise it to the best, of your ability, and make the most of it. Learn something new. Listen to something new. So that's what I did, and that's what I still do. I listen to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of self-development books. I'm a lifelong learner. I like to know. I'm very curious.
So I'm thinking I've been a trainer on and off over the years, and you have someone in a truck with you all day, and then they want to come and sit with you with the cribber. And it's like, and after 7 days of the same person in the truck, and they may or may not even be driving yet, but we are talking. And at first it's all good because you're getting to know each other, and then you get to a point like, oh, I'm really over this. I just want to be by myself now, which is why I ended up kind of resigning as a trainer. Like, nah, I just put me on a grade. I just want to be by myself, and I wanted to write my lists, and I got shit to do, And I can't be doing that if someone else is in the truck with me. So that's what I'm asking is it close proximity? How big is it? Is it like inside a cab? Can you stand up, walk around a bit, or?
Not so much. Pretty much the distance we are here. We're social distancing.
Which we are, because we have the table at the long ways.
We're at each end of the table. This would be about the distance that you sit from me inside the cab, and there would be about that much room between here and that space there to walk between. And over in this little section here is just our little kitchenette, which is a little fridge and a microwave and a kettle and a sink, little hand basin. But so no, there's not much room, and it is a confined space. It's a 12-hour shift.
You don't need a ticket. You don't need a confined space ticket.
No,
it's not
don't.
that confined.
It's fine. No,
I think she's exaggerating. No.
Thanks for clarifying that point.
Yeah. Hey, what about? Is there a toilet?
There is. So there's a toilet at the other end of the lead locomotive. Each locomotive has a toilet. So yes, there is a toilet.
And does that just go on the track?
It goes into. It's like a chemical portable toilet. So it's a chlorine type system. So it gets a chlorine tablet, but it gets
diluted first.
Yes, that's it. But yes, we have that luxury, so it's very good to have that luxury.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, it's it can be a very long day. But and you appreciate each other's quiet time. So we'll have a conversation, and then you'll have your quiet time, and then you might strike up another conversation, and then you'll appreciate someone's reading a book, or if someone's listening to something. Yeah, you appreciate that. But and it can be trying at times, but you just grin and bear it.
Grin and bear it. Blink dollars.
Yeah. That's it, something like that.
Something like that.
It's near the end of the shift. It's near the end of the shift.
Yeah, we're nearly there. The sun's coming up. Well, it doesn't matter for you, does it? Really,
no. And that's
that. Yeah, that is something we spoke about yesterday. That triggered that memory. How your shift times. Let's talk about rosters and shift times and how they vary when you have to then go into a camp situation. And you're off kilter to everyone else, which can be like cleaners can do that to you, and other people that work in the mines. Everyone's on different, some people that aren't on our shift. And it's like, just got to sleep. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and now I'm awake. So, okay, I'll shut up.
So with ours, we work erratic times. We don't do the standard 6 to 6, and it's all based on the train scheduling times. So we could start anywhere around the clock. So we could start at 8 o'clock at night. We could start shift at 10 o'clock at night, midnight, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, any time, and it'll be 12 hours from there. So it's all dependent when the trains have been scheduled to run to site and they've been booked in. So that's where our shifts come into play, and they are rostered around the train schedule times. So and that's so we work where we take your first shift, you take an empty train out to site and load it. You'll do a crew shift. That crew would have spent that previous or that day or that night doing the same thing. They would have taken an empty out, have their downtime
at a camp.
Yep.
In the mining
town. Yep. And they can be a minimum of 8 hours off and back on shift.
Right.
So so then they'll come and relieve you, and you'll go into camp, have your layoff time, and then you'll go back and do a shift change that next day and bring the loaded train back to port and unload it. So, and then you'll repeat that process for the next couple of days.
I'm seeing this as being a major HR headspace, because you've got mine sites wanting trains now. We've been in the bottom of the pit and hurry up, get that coal out because it's going to get up there, it's going to get there, it's going to get washed because there's a train waiting for this coal that we're digging now. That's really bad management, by the way. And we're the ones who suffer for you sitting there for your 3.5 hours waiting for us to get the coal out. And then to say, but those drivers, that train has to go, but those drivers have only had 6 hours, and you don't – do you ever drive out to site and do a changeover out there?
Yes, we
do.
do.
You do? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so that could be pendant on, something could have happened out on track. There could be delays out on track, and that train crew, as I said, they could have burnt 8.5 hours just getting out to site, and then they could be sitting at outside the mine because maybe the mine's not ready, or the previous train was late in getting there and is still loading. So they've got you parked outside and you're waiting for that other train to finish. So I've forgotten what our question was then.
Do other crews come out?
Yes.
And that they'll then come and hot seat you at the train.
They'll be called out to come and relieve you,
right,
because you will bust your time. So if you continue on, if you've done 9.5 hours, you may start to load the train, but a relief crew will come and change out with you, so you have sufficient time to get back to camp and sign off within your 12 hours.
Right.
So and you may be called to drive from port out to site to relieve a crew if that train hasn't made it back to port and whatnot. So yes.
And do you have to drive your own cars, or
no? We have crew cars.
Oh right, yeah.
So we have crew cars, and same thing. One's a designated driver, the other one is passenger, and vigilance again with your driving and fatigue management.
Yeah.
So if one gets tired, you share the driving responsibilities and get out to site safely and relieve that crew and take over.
Thanks for explaining that, because I was thinking, well, how do they even do that? How do they? Yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
That they can go that way. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a no, Mad Mumsy. We don't. Do you have to clean the train? Or I guess you'd have to clean inside the train, like we would for shift change. Take all your rubbish and your shit and wipe it all down and do the windows. You have to clean the windows.
Yeah, so that is, you need to do that. So you need to tidy up, sanitize your console in front of you, your chair and, your screens and whatnot. And, you need to keep your windows and your side mirror clean and tidy so that you can see out of it. So, yes, you do have to do that, and that's just part and parcel. Yeah. That's, respect for your fellow crew.
That you have to operate. Yeah. Can you reach the top? You're tall, right? Can you reach the top of the window from the ground? No. So how do you clean the top of the window?
So if we
do Spider-Man actions on there.
So we don't physically clean the outside of our trains. They are serviced and that's
but the windscreen
But the windscreen, we have a service we need to provision the train, so we have to fill the sand traps up because we have sand that applies to help us with braking on the wet rail. If you have dew on the rail or wet rail when it's raining. So sand is applied through a little valve in front of the wheels, and it helps for the wheels to get traction. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, we have to make sure those sand traps are full of sand and they're at the front and the rear of the locos. So we go into a facility and, we provision the train, and at that point it goes into a shed where the overhead is isolated, and the drivers are responsible, for filling those sand traps up with sand, topping the water up in the tanks for the toilet and the kitchenette, and washing the windscreen. So we have a big broom, like sponge. We spray the windows and the hose and clean them at that opportunity, and the headlights and the lights, ditch lights and whatnot. So
clean your lights.
Yes,
on night shift is a very good idea.
Yeah. So, but that's all under isolated. That power is isolated because you've got the water and you're walking around the loco with it.
So when you're out on site and do hot seat changeovers and stuff out there, you just do the inside of the cab pretty much.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah. And so I guess inside the shed, I've got a 4-year-old grandson, right? So I'm just seeing like Thomas Tank Engine, and they all go back to the yard, and they go in, and then like down at Jalalan, down Armstrong Beach and all of that way. Yeah. So that's what you mean.
You'd go into a facility.
It's like maintenance.
There's a couple of facilities around.
The workshop.
Yes. So they provide those services, and that's where you provision the train, so to speak.
Provision the train. Oh my God.
And you collect consumables for your kitchen, like your tidy bags and your paper towel and your hand towel and your hand cleaner.
Do people pinch them?
Yes.
Because that's a big issue out at work. That's a dumb question. Of course they do. It's free. I'll take anything that's...
Yeah, they're not paying for.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, yes.
And that's across all industries, I think. Stationery, people got 1,000 pens at home, like really.
But I've got to have that one.
Oh, yeah, it's free. Hey, right. Where I'm staying, I'll be taking everything. But that's part of my experience. Okay, so I think we're starting to draw to the close. I've got lots of little
crosses.
Because what I do, note to self for you, which we'll touch on, is if you think if I have an idea or a little thing that you're talking about, and since I'm trying to be much better at not interrupting unless I really have to, like I know that you listening at home don't know that, like I don't, or maybe you do, going, shut up, mate, mumsy, everyone knows that. So I just write myself a little note on my bit of paper, and then when we've covered it, I cross it out. So really the only one I've got here before we move on to what else it is that you're doing that's really fantastic is get dirty. So do you get
down and dirty?
Like, do you have to wear gloves? I know for us walking up and down the steps of a truck or any machine, you have to have 3-point contact, which is you're hanging on and you're walking at the same time. And if you haven't got, I used to wear my gloves. Some sites you had to, some you didn't. Some you did, but people don't. But I wore it because it's filthy and it's freaking coal. It's black, dirty shit. Or if you're in iron ore, it's red dirt that you can't get out. That's it. And so on trains?
Yes. So, of course, you've got to have your 3-point contact to get on board and dismount as well. And also, PPE is applicable. So we've got to have hearing protection inside when we're walking outside the locomotive area where we sit and drive. So once you step outside that door, that's a PP area because that's the engine room until you walk down to the toilet. The toilet's at the back of the locomotive. So there's all the traction motor blowers and all that machinery that's very loud. So that's hearing protection area. And yes, we have to, at certain sites, we have to abide by their PPE. So we do have to have a hard hat and our gloves on when we get off the train if we've got to go to the back of the train and whatnot to protect it. So, we have to abide by that PPE, whichever's deemed
whatever
required
site you're
for
on.
what site. But, so our main PPE is, yes, we've got to wear our gloves, our hearing protection and our hats when we're shunting or on the ground, our floppy wide-brimmed hats that are so attractive.
Oh, so for sun protection.
Yes.
Sun
protection.
Yeah.
Yes.
We wanted at the field point, at one band camp, we wanted a bit of a bloody veranda effort. Not much, just something to stand under when it's 40 degrees and we're frying out here and the pump hardly works and it's taking me forever and, I'm not winning and it's dust everywhere and I'm back here every 5 minutes. And they said, get the floppy hat. Effort for your hard hat. I'm like, yeah, right. How about you do it? Because we had to get down and turn the handle and everything, not sitting there and push a button like some fancy sites.
Yes, so yes, PPE is very important for protection, personal protection.
Yes, that's right. And the whole world knows what that is now, thanks to COVID.
Yes, definitely. And that has brought about some good changes to people's hygiene efforts.
Hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah, let's hope they keep
it
going.
All stays.
Probably be the best flu season we've ever had.
I think so, yes.
Before we move on, is there anything else you want to say about trains that we haven't covered that you think people should know?
No, I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered what we need to, unless someone has a question that they'll send in to you later on that we'll answer at another point.
That's
down the
right.
track.
I was trying to think what was yours going to say. I think we've dug in pretty well. But my brain was trying to remember what yours was.
We're on track,
down
remember?
The track. We're on track. So the show notes for this episode, so that you can see updates and where to connect with Jo. We're not going yet, but I'll just let you know because I haven't said it yet. madmumsy.com/beers71, the number 71. So what else is it that you're doing now? I know that you are very passionate. We'll touch on two things. Women,
yes,
stepping outside the box and doing different things,
yes.
And then also your upcoming live radio show. So instead of going back to show notes, you can tune in to Jo's new show and send her a message and make sure you say, Mad Mumsy said to say hi.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm very passionate and an advocate for women working in non-traditional roles, and I really would like to see a lot more women step out of their comfort zones and apply for these positions and work in these careers and these roles because they're very fulfilling, but it's self-accomplishment and it's you can enjoy and have a passion about anything that you enjoy. So if you're in a bit of a stalemate in your current role, in your current job, go start looking at these jobs in the rail, mining, construction, STEM industries and, pursue it because you will enjoy it. And yes, it has a financial benefit, but I believe more so it's a fulfilling benefit. So yes, definitely.
Can you just explain what STEM is? Because every time I hear that, I'm like, what is that again? And I know that it's related to mining and I should know. But I kind of feel like to me it's not what I do. It's not operating. It's all the rest of it, geology and all of that.
It's lots of things and it's related to a lot of the industries. So it's science, technology, engineering and mathematics. So it's research.
See, none of them are my department.
Yeah. So and there's lots of women that are in those industries, but there needs to be lots more because it's very, very male dominated, and it's because just a stereotype. I think girls were never really made to feel that they could enter into those industries, but there's every opportunity for girls and for women to go into those industries. And even if a woman has mathematical skills now or has a desire to go and research something, go and pursue it. Go and get your trade or your degree now. There's lots of opportunity and lots of education opportunities to pursue those degrees and those pathways. So that's STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics.
Technology I can relate to.
Yes, and there's lots of, it's such a relevant industry to the young ones today, the generation of today. They were brought up with all this digital technology. They are the experts. I'm tech illiterate. I really am. I know the basics, but it is just a struggle for me. But the young ones, we're talking 3-year-olds that can handle a laptop and an iPad so much better than we can. And if they like that kind of thing, go and be a coder. go and design a game or an app, because if that's what you like, if that's where your interest lies, go and do that, because you will have a passion for it and you'll have a natural ability and skill for it. So if that's something that you like, go and do that. If you like designing things, if you like solving problems, be an engineer. And that could be, there's many forms of an engineer. So, yeah, there's lots of opportunities out there, and the girls shouldn't limit themselves to particular roles or jobs. Go and find something that you're very interested, that you have an interest in.
And I love your passion. I do. And it's like, you look at mining, you said at the start about my mum being a pioneer, and she was. There were hardly any women out there. And I'll leave a link in the show notes what her episode is. I can't remember which one. It's one of the early ones. And how far women in mining especially has come. And now we're Mad Baz. Well, he was telling me about this one band camp he knows that he said nearly quite a few of the supervisors, the superintendent, mine manager, and the OCE, the person who's in charge of all safety and can shut the whole show down, are women. And it's great. And the guys, like, they're cool with it, And Mad Mumsy, I've spoken about women and my thoughts on this many times, so I won't delve into your time on that. But there is a lot more opportunity, like you say, in construction and other areas, and that's a lot of your big push as well. So wherever you are, step out of that box of what you think you should do and see what else is around. And it might not even be mining. It might be something in the arts or something, but do what you love.
And it's not a feminist movement. It's just to say, hey, you have the ability, just try it. Just give yourself that boost of confidence and go and try it. If you've got self-doubt, build it up and just step out and try it. And as we said, it's not a big feminist movement to say, hey, women deserve all this. It's everyone's got an equal opportunity. So, yes.
That's right. And those messages go for the blokes too.
Exactly.
Don't just think you have to be a this or a that.
That's exactly right.
Think outside the box.
There's endless opportunities out there.
And I think I'd like especially to talk to the older blokes, because quite a few you old lot that listen. Love you. Hi, JS. That's all they've known. And they've just got to stay there until they are allowed to retire, and they keep putting the retirement age up. But, what do you like doing when you're at home? Do something where you can start making a bit of a side hustle at home on your break that you can step into and semi-retire and stuff. And the other thing is, you never know when that job that you're in is going to stop because of the war.
The market. Oh, that's right, yeah.
Well, the world.
COVID, the world come to a stop.
That's right. Or you might hurt yourself, or something might happen, or you need to be home to be look after other family members and stuff. So just start planting the seeds. What boots could I put on other than my steel cap boots?
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I'm a big advocate for the old generation in the workforce, because they have that much knowledge and experience to pass on. Their career experiences and their industry knowledge needs to be passed on. So these people need to have, if they're transitioning into retirement, search out a flexible work arrangement. Go for a job share and ease yourself into that retirement stage. And as Mad Mumsy said, go find that other little niche that you want to delve into or you got an interest in, and start creating that time for your retirement. But also don't forget to pass your knowledge on and help the next generation or the next intake of workers learn the industry and all about it and how to safely do their job, because you are the workforce that created it and built the industry. So we need that knowledge and experience to be passed on.
As Hard Hat Mentor would say, pass it forward.
Yes.
Always, whatever it is.
And that's what I say.
And only use your knowledge for power.
Pay it forward, pays back.
Yeah. No, only, what did I say?
Yeah.
Only use your power for good. I said only use your knowledge for power. She'd be like, Mad Mumsy, I don't bloody say that. But I was tearing up when you said that because I do know a lot of older people when they're back stuffed, they're tired, they don't want to go back out there. Even if you're younger, start thinking, okay, you might still stay in mining, but how can you transition? They keep asking you to be a bloody trainer. I don't want to train people. Well, do it.
Yeah.
But, it can take the edge off. Let's sit in the crib out and do a bit of paperwork for a change and,
Write your knowledge that you have in your head down into a procedure or into a work instruction because that is valuable knowledge to the next person coming along.
Or write a book.
Or write a book. That's a great idea.
Oh, my God. Speaking of which, let's start to wrap this up. High heels to high vis. Head to kickasswomen.com.au. Jody Sainsbury. Also, we need to look at the radio station. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. We nearly forgot.
No.
So, yes, I have we have in creation and development and very soon to be go live on air, a live stream radio show, which it will be very similar to a podcast, but it goes live to air for up to an hour. And we will be talking lots of things about rail, mining, construction, engineering, any of those industrial things that the women particularly can pursue, and also building up your skills to get in there, some professional development, and also emotional and soft skills, they call them, building up your confidence and whatnot.
Yeah, self-belief boost.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
So, yes, we'll be talking and we'll be in touch over the air.
Oh, my God, it's going to be so exciting. I can't wait.
And that's Kick-Ass Radio. So,
Kick-Ass Radio.
Yeah, we'll start to see it getting advertised in the next couple of weeks, over the coming weeks.
Yeah, and I will leave that link to everything we spoke about today. Make sure you buy Jo's book and listen to the live show and let Jo know that you've listened to this podcast. What's the best place to follow you on socials? Where are you on the socials? Oh,
we're on Facebook. We're in LinkedIn. Kick-Ass Women has a Facebook page and LinkedIn page, and also on Instagram.
Yep. So that's the one. That's the umbrella for all the things.
That's right.
Kick-Ass Women.
Yes.
Love it.
And thank you very much. It's been great to have a chat today.
Thanks.
And a beer.
Oh, my God, and a beer. And it only took 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. That was too many beers.
Oh, my God. Now we'll get a couple of selfies with the
view.
The view. Thanks, Jo. It's been great. Cheers.
See you.
Oh, my God. Well, there you go. What did you think of that episode, that conversation? Are you wanting to go and learn how to drive a train now? It's really good, and I can see how it will keep you fit too. And Jo, I told you, she is a kick-ass woman and she is going places. And I'm so honoured to have had her on the podcast, but also to call her a friend now and to have someone who lives close by that actually gets what we are doing and our why. When it comes to technology and stuff, a lot of people don't understand. And that's fine. I don't expect everyone to, but to have a like-minded soul so close that I can go and have lunch with and just shoot the breeze about technology, about mining, about women, and now about how to drive a train. And what about the animals? I told my mum and she was nearly crying and said, don't talk about that again. So let's not end on that note. Let's end on the positive. Head to the show notes, pick up her book and check out everything else that she's doing, and make sure you tune into her live radio show when that begins. Head to madmumsy.com/beers. No, what? madmumsy.com/beers 71. The number 71. Until next time, stay safe, be real, be special, and have fun, for we only live once. Cheers.